Imagine a morning when you hear the sound of a ball hitting stone walls, children screaming, and the smell of wet grass after a rain, mixing with the smoke from the stoves in the narrow medieval streets of England. Imagine a crowd of teenagers chasing a ball made of rags and leather, falling, laughing, arguing, rejoicing with every kick. This is where the history of football began, in chaos, without rules, but with a huge desire to play. This was not the football we know today. It was a wild, lively game, where every day was a new adventure and a new battle. But within this chaos, a spark was born, a desire to compete, to move, to feel the joy of freedom. The smell of wet grass after the rain, the clatter of the ball on the stone, the voices echoing from one end of the street to the other. All this created a magic that is difficult to describe in words. For those who played, it was more than a game. It was freedom, a small revolution in every step, every stroke. But life does not like chaos. Local authorities, kings and magistrates saw only disorder and danger. They issued orders. Playing is prohibited. The streets, where laughter had resounded yesterday, became the same stone arenas where children's joy fought with the strict rules of the adult world. And yet, the game did not die. It hid in courtyards, in empty estates, in small squares between houses, continuing to gather those who would stop at nothing. In this chaos, a dream was born, small, clumsy, but real. And the first lesson was already obvious. Big ideas often start small, from what seems like chaos, from what others don't notice. The main thing is to believe that every step, every shot, every game brings you closer to something greater. Just as we have become accustomed to the cries of children, the clatter of the ball on the stone, and the smell of the wet grass, the order will be heard over the streets. Playing is prohibited. Kings and magistrates saw the chaos and danger and tried to stop what they could not understand. And you can imagine, the crowd that laughed yesterday, today hides the ball and watches as the authorities try to curb their joy. But amidst this chaos, there are those who see something more in the game. These are students at Oxford and Cambridge who decide that this wild chaos can be turned into a real game. They gather in small halls by candlelight, argue about the rules, write down every nuance. Every little thing, from how many players are on the field to how goals are counted, can change the future of the game. Their path was not easy. They faced disbelief, ridicule, and even open resistance from the authorities, who did not understand the meaning of these rules. Imagine the moment when they hid their notes, discussing the rules in whispers, because every page could be a cause for conflict. Every meeting is a risk. Every decision is a chance to turn chaos into order. And yet they did not give up. Every band became fuel for their determination. Every kick of the ball, which still crept into the street, reminded them, an idea is stronger than fear. They understood the main thing. To turn a dream into reality, you need to boldly step forward even when the whole world says no. These first rules, these first clubs, are small victories over chaos, the first steps toward a structure that will one day allow millions of people around the world to experience the same joy they experienced on narrow cobblestone streets. And already then, a lesson is born that will remain forever. Crisis is not the end, but the fuel for breakthrough. After the chaos of the streets and the struggle for the survival of an idea, football began to take shape. Imagine a small candlelit hall in a Cambridge college. There, a group of students sit and compete with each other to write down the rules that will be the first in the world. Their discussions are full of passion. Every gesture, every argument is a small war for order in the midst of chaos. They argue about how many people should be on the field, how to count goals, what to do with fouls. At that moment, the realization dawns. For an idea to survive crises, it needs structure. But creating the rules was just the beginning. The real challenge was to convince others to play by them. Many laughed, thinking it was absurd, But those who had seen more in football began to gather in small clubs. The first clubs were modest, small signs on doors, old balls, simple pitches in yards and parks. Each club meeting is the scene of a small revolution, where the future rules of the game are decided, the first matches are planned, and each participant feels part of a great experiment. Imagine a moment. Workers after a hard day at the factory come out onto the field to play a match according to the new rules. Their hands still smell of car smoke. Their legs are tired, but they run, laugh, argue, and win. Football begins to go beyond the university halls, becoming the language of ordinary people. It unites different people, gives them a common dream and a way to escape from the difficulties of everyday life. But the path was not easy. The clubs faced resistance from local authorities, fights between players, and funding problems. The first tournaments were chaotic. The ball rarely followed the rules. Sometimes the match ended in a fight or injury. However, every defeat and every conflict became a lesson. They taught discipline, mutual understanding, the importance of clear rules. Every small step forward brought the game closer to the moment when it would be understood and accepted by the whole world. Gradually, football becomes more than a game for a narrow circle. It gives birth to the first traditions, the first symbols, the first heroes, and even the first fan passions. Imagine the stadiums of the future, filled with people who, a few decades ago, chased the ball through puddles and streets, without rules or clubs. It all started with a small group of people ready to take risks, argue, and create order out of chaos. This stage taught me a key lesson. To make a dream a reality, you don't just have to dream it up. You have to put in the structure, organization, and patience. Every club, every rule, every match is a step toward a global revolution that will transform a chaotic street game into a phenomenon that will capture billions of hearts around the world. Football no longer remained the privilege of university halls or small clubs. It began to go out into the streets, into the courtyards, into the factory squares, where workers gathered after a long day at the factory to feel the freedom and joy of the game. Imagine the roar of cars, the smell of smoke from factory chimneys, and next to them, the laughter and screams of those who chased the ball through puddles, despite their fatigue. Football becomes the language of ordinary people, uniting them all, giving hope and a small victory every day. It was a time of great challenges for the creators of the game. They had to negotiate rules between different neighborhoods, different clubs, and convince people of the importance of discipline and structure. Every new meeting could end in a fight, and many doubted whether the game would survive the conflicts, poverty, and harsh life of working-class neighborhoods. But even in these doubts, the power of football grew. It became something that gave people the feeling that they were part of something bigger. Imagine the scene: a field in a factory yard, dirty, uneven, with a crowd of children and workers around. They look at the old ball, and someone makes the first accurate pass. Someone scores a goal. And at that moment, magic is born. Football becomes more than a game. It becomes a ritual, a tradition, a way to show yourself, to find friends, to feel the unity and strength of the team. At this time, the first major tournaments and competitions began to appear, and with them the first heroes that people adored. Football was no longer limited to a narrow circle. It became a cultural phenomenon that transformed the lives of cities, communities, and entire nations. This transformation was not easy. Many clubs went bankrupt, some matches ended in fights, and the rules were constantly changing. But each challenge made the game stronger, and the community of players and fans more united. The magic of this transformation was that football could now speak to everyone, rich and poor, children and adults, men and women. It was a game that gave hope, a chance to forget about problems and become part of something bigger. And it is here that an important lesson is formed. The true power of an idea is in its ability to unite people, to give a common dream, and to give everyone a chance to feel important. The great transformation culminated in football ceasing to be just a game. It became a social phenomenon, a symbol of hope and joy, uniting people from different backgrounds, cultures, and continents. And in this, a principle is born that will always be relevant. For an idea to become huge, it must become closer to people. They must feel it with their hearts, not just their minds. Football was no longer confined to narrow clubs or cities. Imagine stadiums beginning to gather thousands of spectators, flags fluttering in the wind, and fans' chants echoing over the fields. This was the moment when a game that had once been born on dirty streets and in puddles entered the international arena. The initial challenges were enormous. Clubs from different countries played by different rules, languages and traditions differed, and attempts to reach an agreement sometimes ended in conflict. Imagine a delegation of students and fans gathered in a room, arguing for hours, trying to agree on rules for an international tournament. Some wanted more players on the field, some insisted on a faster pace, and some demanded mandatory protection against injuries. And yet they found a compromise because they understood that for the game to become a global phenomenon, it had to be made accessible to everyone. In 1904, FIFA was born, an organization designed to unite world football. Imagine the scene: a modest hall in Paris, the first documents on the tables, the flags of the countries, the delegates arguing, but in everyone's eyes a glimmer of hope. It was the moment when the dream of young students and street players turned into an organized force capable of changing the lives of billions. The first international matches were dramatic. Teams traveled long distances, often under conditions of lack of finances and resources. The balls were old, the fields were uneven, and the fans sometimes argued over the rules. But when the first whistles blew, when the first goals were scored, people understood. Football is now global. It is able to unite peoples, to give them a common language of joy, experience, and pride. This breakthrough taught an important lesson. A global dream requires organization, courage, and compromise. Without them, even the brightest idea will remain a local phenomenon. Football became a symbol that one small spark, born in the chaos of narrow streets, can ignite into a flame that lights up the whole world. And then it becomes clear, a real breakthrough always comes through difficulties, through conflicts and challenges, through the struggle for a common dream. Every goal, every match, every international meeting is not just a game. It is evidence that an idea, if loved and supported, can overcome any borders. Football has long ceased to be just a game played on the streets or on modest club fields. Imagine a modern stadium, tens of thousands of spectators, loud shouts, flags, fans from all over the world, television cameras recording every move, and global broadcasts reaching millions of homes. Football has become a global business, and with it new challenges have emerged. The main struggle today is the balance between commerce and the soul of the game. Clubs become corporations, transfers cost millions, and players become world stars. Sometimes it seems that the dream that was once born on the dirty streets of England is lost among numbers and contracts. Imagine managers in modern offices deciding who will go, who will stay, what contract to sign, while next to them there are crowds of fans who want to see real passion, a game played with heart, not just numbers. And even in this world, crises arise. Scandals, corruption, disputes over the rules and fairness of the game. All this tests football for its strength. But it is in these challenges that a new strength is born: adaptation. Clubs change strategies, leagues introduce new rules, organizations fight for transparency, and the game continues to unite people. Imagine the moment when the Champions League final is played. The stadium is packed. The camera focuses on the player who once dreamed of this in the narrow streets. His heart is beating, and millions of spectators around the world experience his every move. It is a symbol of modern football, It combines dreams, business, and global society, and at the same time demands courage and integrity from all participants. Modern challenges have taught football a new lesson. Big dreams require not only passion, but also adaptation. Only those who are ready to change, seek new paths, and maintain the spirit of the game are able to survive any storm. Football today is more than a sport. It is a platform for unity, struggle, victories, and defeats, which shapes the character of millions. And most importantly, even in a world of money and media, football retains its heart. Players continue to chase the ball. Children in every corner of the world imitate their movements, and the spirit of the game, which was born on the dirty streets of medieval England, lives on.